So the first topic of this chapter is French society during the late 18th century. Now we will discuss what are the different social structure in during the late 18th century. In 1774, Louis XVI of the Bourbon family of kings ascended the throne of France. So this is very important, do remember it. So in the year 1774, Louis XVI of the Bourbon family, he ascended the throne of France. He was 20 years old and married to the Austrian princess Marie Antoinette. So he was 20 years of old and he married to the Austrian princess named as Marie Antoinette. Upon his accession, the new king found an empty treasure. So when he ascended the throne, he found that his king treasury is empty. Why? Let's discuss. Long years of war had drained the financial resources of France. So, what was the main reason why the treasury was empty? Because long years of war had drained all the financial resources of the France. Added to this was the cost of maintaining an extravagant court at the immense palace of Versailles. So another reason was because a huge amount of money was invested in the courts of the court at the immense palace of Versailles. Under Louis XVI, France helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from the common enemy Britain. So Louis XVI helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from their common enemy known as Britain. The war added more than $1 billion livres to a debt that had already risen to more than 2 billion livres. So as he helped the 13 American colonies, the debt lead to more than 2 billion livres. Lenders who gave the state credit now began to charge 10% interest on loans. So as their treasuries was empty, so in order to fulfill the demands, or you can say needs and requirement of the palaces, and to fulfill the treasuries which was empty, they finally started charging the 10% interest on loan. So the French government was obliged to spend an increasing percentage of its budget on interest payment alone to meet its regular expense, such as the cost of maintaining an army, the court, running government offices or universities. The state was forced to increase taxes. So in order to meet the regular expense of the royal family, they finally forced the state to increase the taxes on the goods and commodities. Yet even these measures would not have sufficed. By increasing the taxes also, still they were not able to earn huge amount of taxes from them. French society in the 18th century was divided into three estate, and only members of the third estate paid taxes. So who paid the taxes? Only the third estate. So this is the social structure in the France. The first estate, clergy, was there. Second is nobility, and the third estate, who were there? Big businessmen, merchants, court official, lawyers, peasants and artisans, small peasants, landless labor and servants. So these are this is the social structure and how the society was divided in the French. The society of each state was part of the feudal system that dated back to the Middle Ages. The term old regime is usually used to describe the society and institution of France before 1718. So the society of each state was a part of feudal system. That means in India we usually name them as the zamindari system. That means the zamindar will give their land to the landless labor, and they will do cultivation in that land, and they have to pay certain revenues or taxes to the zamindar, and zamindar will give some portion of taxes to the king in that particular area. Figure 2 shows how the system of estate in France society was organized. So figure 2 means the social structure during the France. Peasants made up about 90% of the population. However, only a small number of them owned the land they cultivated. So there was 90% of the population who were peasant, but there were many small number of them who had their own land to cultivate. About 60% of the land was owned by nobles, the church, and other richer members of the third estate. So about 60% of the land was owned by the nobles, the church, and the other richer members who belonged to the third estate. The members of the first two estate, that is the clergy and the nobility, enjoyed certain privileges by birth. So the clergy and the nobility, they enjoy certain privileges or advantages by birth because they belong to the clergy and nobility category in France. The most important of these was exemption from paying taxes to the state. So the first point which they got advantages was that they were not forced to pay the taxes to the state. The nobles further enjoy feudal privileges. These included feudal dues which they extracted from the peasants. So the extra taxes or revenues was taken from the peasant, and the clergy and nobility, they were not forced to give any taxes. Peasants were obliged to render service to the lord, to work in his house or field, to serve in the army, or to participate in building roads. So the peasants were forced to offer the service to the lord, or the you can say the owner. Either they will work in his house and field, that is gardens, or they will serve the army, or they will participate in the building in building the roads. So these are the incident. If they were not able to pay the taxes, these were the tasks which they have to do for the owner.